Hi. Hello. Hi, my name's Tate, and I am the world builder. For some, world building is the most desirable, most enjoyable part of the craft of writing a story. Some find it daunting. Hopefully this video will enlighten you and give you some pillars to set your roof upon. Before we dive in, just want to remind you, please like, comment, and subscribe if you're enjoying the content and you're finding value out of it and want to see more, because there's more coming. Now, Tolkien was the king when it comes to world building. So much so that he became the center of a term, world building sickness. Maybe you've heard of that before. If you don't know what world building sickness is, it's basically where you get stuck in the world building phase of a story and you never leave it. Basically, it's like spending all the time required to polish poop until it shines like a mirror. Now, it clearly worked out for Tolkien. He did spend upwards of 30 years working on all the history, the lore, all of the world building that related to his story. If that's what you want to do, you do you. Sure, but you got to consider the time invested in something like that. For those looking to focus, here's the pillars of world building that will guarantee a great story, if developed properly. First off, geography or geology, the environment. This is the actual world of the world building, the places. But that being said, environment is very much a part of that, so let's take High Storms from the Stormlight Archive as a big example for the geography or the actual world. This first pillar is the literal ground your characters are going to walk upon. So it should be pretty solid, because if it's not, the story will fall through the cracks. And then it's suddenly not interesting, and the payoffs that happen with your characters and in your plot just don't really land as well, because there's nothing to land on. All right, now, number 2, the second pillar is culture or society. This is the glue that holds the people together in your stories. As an example of a good culture you could look at for inspiration, keyword there, would be the Fremen from Dune. They are so interesting that they literally inspired quite a few other subcultures or variations of those cultures in other novels. For example, The Wheel of Time, when you have the Aiel. There's a lot of similarities. Culture is super important and a great place to continue on if you're finding yourself stuck in your world building, because it influences your characters very literally. It's kind of their background. Think of it like a portrait for your character. That background, yes, part of it is the actual environment, but what else is there? Is there going to be other people there? What are they wearing? How are they talking? Etc. etc. Helps to add a bit more interest to who your characters are through the world building. All right, now let's just try to cruise through these so you guys can go about your day. So then third pillar is history or lore. As I mentioned earlier, Tolkien spent 30 years building his history. So it's really hard to poke holes through the history. History is the pillar in a way that helps to support a bit more of the plot. Just as the culture can affect character in a very direct way, the history and lore is a big influence on your plot. Some society, some kingdom may have specific history or lore with another country or kingdom that causes events to happen in the plot. Having a history or myths or legends and stuff like that will be really important for building a richness to your world building. Number 4, probably my favorite, magic systems and or technology in your world. My stories from the Vineyard, my shared universe that I'm working on, for example, has 5 pieces of magic that are all kind of coalesced from the same source, split into 5 distinct pieces of that, all based on parts of the human being. Not just physical being, but, your mind, your eyes, your heart, your soul and your flesh. Bit of a teaser there for you. Technology very much does play a part in the rest of your world as well. Not just part of your magic system, but because of how it influences the rest of culture. It influences your lore sometimes. It's another thing you could look at if you're not so focused on the magic, but you like the technology if you're working on a science fiction. Which, fun fact, all of these pillars, all of these concepts of world building do in fact transfer over to other forms of speculative fiction. Not just fantasy. And not just science fiction. You can apply these to romance. Fight me on that. Now, the fifth and most nebulous of the pillars, as I've developed them, is immersion or integration into your story. How well do your other pillars coalesce? Or do they overlap throughout your world? If your pillars aren't in a way touching, which doesn't make a lot of sense when you're actually trying to build a building, but hey, just go with me on this. But those pillars overlapping will create a far more interesting world to inhabit from your characters. Two separated will create dissonance in your world, and it won't make it feel as rich, it won't make it feel as connected, or just won't make as much sense. Now, when you're looking at all of your pillars, and all 5 of them, and how they work, height actually does matter. What is the function of a pillar? Well, it's to hold up a structure, usually a roof or ceiling or some kind of cap to a building, etc. If they're different heights, what happens? Does the roof lean? Does the roof just fall entirely? Consider how much effort, time, and polish you put into each of your pillars. They should be fairly equal. You got one awesome thing here, it's gonna be sticking up through the roof, and it's going to fall and probably damage the rest of your story if you're not careful. Try to focus on as much evenness as you can. Obviously, sometimes that's not always the case, but do your best to at least get 3 of them, 4 of them possibly. If there has to be something that's reduced on, just focus on trying to not make it more than 1 pillar. And you should be pretty freaking awesome with your world building. Now, I probably explained this, but this is my favorite fundamental of storytelling, the world building. I absolutely love it. The setting is so freaking fun to me. That's the point. Creating the world is so fun. Some people don't like it as much, and it's very daunting. I get it. But don't forget to have fun. That's part of writing. If you're doing this grudgingly and just like, this is just horrible, I can't do this, it's gonna come across in your writing. It just will. And when that comes across, your story just won't be as good. Now, I know that's hard, but just try to find aspects. For example, maybe you love magic systems like me, and that's something you want to spend a lot of time on. Clearly, Brandon Sanderson, that was his thing. He loves magic systems like me. But maybe you love history like Tolkien did. Tolkien was a history nut too, not even just in his own world, but in, he lived through history, through World War II. Find that focus that will help you give you the desire to actually do the thing. Because a story untold is a story we won't ever be able to read. Now keep in mind, there are definitely other elements of world building and setting. These are just 5 of the pillars that will help to hold up the story and make it really world class and really perfect it. You can always work on other things, but these are kind of good categories to just focus on if you're struggling with where to move on to next. Kind of a checklist in a way. So, how, might I ask, would you go beyond this to improve your world building? Perhaps you should watch my next video and find out. Thank you guys so much for watching and hearing me rant about world building and setting, which is my absolute favorite aspect of storytelling, fundamental. It's also kind of the focus and niche of this channel, if you haven't noticed. It really touches my heart. For all of the support, likes, comments, and subscribers. I don't even... brain fart. Anyway, have a good day, guys. Go tell stories, and don't forget, there are no bad ideas, just unfinished ones. Take care.